I could use my gavel.
No, I'm gonna hold you without even taking it out of the purse. Isn't that what this is for? Isn't this your little gavel holder?
They were
I
hidden
can't hear you,
before you
what?
got here.
Oh, they're right here, behind the
You know
name
what?
tag.
You don't need to fill one out right now, and I'll explain later. But don't you worry, we know who you are. We're gonna do a little different format this evening to shake things up.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Sure you do. I want to call to order the meeting of the Midcoast Community Council for November 13th, 2013. The council members will introduce themselves.
Glenn Erickson,
Lisa Ketchum.
Laura Stein,
Bill Kehoe.
Dan Haggerty.
Captain Mike Maskarich, the area commander, Redwood City area, California Highway Patrol, will give his report.
Good evening. I'll be brief because I know you have a very full agenda for tonight. I just wanted to provide an update on a couple of things. There was an issue that was brought up some time ago about the concern for the stainless steel box that's in the center median on Highway 92 just as you leave Half Moon Bay around Main Street. Some citizens felt that it was problematic and created a hazard because the sun would shine on it. And being that we're not probably getting any rain in the future, or at least near future, still a lot of sunshine out. Half Moon Bay has graciously agreed to put a finish on that box to minimize the glare, so that will be less of an impact to traffic traveling both west and east on Highway 92. Of a significant concern that has come up recently within the community, and I want to assure everyone that the Highway Patrol has been very responsive in looking at what we can do to solve this problem, has been the issue of speeding vehicles on Sunshine Valley Road. And I know there's a number of residents who live on that road who have constantly been putting up with the speeding cars. The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, while I think it's helpful, is not something that we can legally support because a recent traffic and engineering survey that was conducted by San Mateo County back in 2012 reflected that the average speed of the vehicles, or the 85th percentile on that road, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 miles per hour. So at best, we'd be able to move the speed limit to 35 miles an hour. Now, that's not what the residents want to hear. Speeding, we don't want to raise the speed limit in a way to try to address the speeding problem. And that's not what the CHP nor does San Mateo County want to see that either. There's some concerns with what we can put in effect as a speed limit because of the density mandates that are required for a residential street. But that doesn't minimize the concerns of the folks who live and travel on that road regularly, and it doesn't minimize the concerns that the Highway Patrol, and I'll speak on behalf of San Mateo County, has as well. We need to work on a collaborative, creative solution on what we can do to put a speed limit that's supported by the engineering and traffic surveys. At the same time, look at what other things we can do to the roadway, whether it be roadway features or other devices that can have an impact on appreciably reducing the speed. Because frankly, I could have officers tucked away in the driveways with their laser guns or radar guns, and it's not going to solve the problem. I can't tell you at today's point in time what that solution is going to be, but what I can assure you is that we are working collaboratively to try to come up with a legitimate and reasonable solution to the speeding vehicles on that road. The last thing anybody wants to see is somebody injured or killed and say, well, there's nothing we can do because statutorily we can't lower it, or it doesn't support a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, or we're precluded by statute from putting speed bumps. That is not an acceptable solution. That's not a solution that's going to continue to be an obstacle in what we're going to do, but I cannot tell you definitively ultimately what that work through is going to be. But it's not an issue that I'm going to let fall by the wayside. It's been suggested that we put striping down the road. A citizen brought that up at the last meeting, and I did in fact bring that up to the county, and it's something that they're considering. It's going to depend on the width of the roadway and where they could or couldn't put that particular application, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. Bottom line is, we're going to need to be creative, and I don't want to let you think that you just have to be patient and time, and we'll take care of it. This is something that's very important to me. It's important to all of you, and it's something that you have my assurance that I will work through. I can't tell you again on this date and time this is when the problem is going to go away, but it's not an issue that I'm just going So, again, with that, I want to thank you for your time and thank the board for allowing me this opportunity to speak before you.
Well, thanks so much for coming. Well, with that said, we'll move on to the Board of Supervisors report from Nicholas Calderon. We aim to please.
Yeah. There's a timer if you want that. How you guys doing? Good evening. So thanks for letting me kind of give you guys some updates here. First, on November 20th, the Planning Commission, San Mateo County Planning Commission, will be hearing 3 items that are more than likely of interest to the Midcoast. Item number 1 is the Moss Beach Park. As some of you may remember, the park had a situation where it went through a tax sale. The county canceled that tax sale, and now we are looking to incorporate that park upon the request of the current owners of the land. We're looking to incorporate the park into our park system. And the first step is determining if that land use is in compliance with our general plan. That's going to be done on November 20th at the San Mateo County Planning Commission meeting. If the MCC is interested in weighing in and hopefully providing a letter of support, we would be very appreciative of that.
By what date would you need that?
November 20th. I know it's kind of last minute. However, more importantly than that one, December 10th, this item will be going to the Board of Supervisors. That's the important. And we would really like to get a letter of support from you. The CP&R board, who's the owner of the land now, would really like to see the county incorporate this park. The county would really like to do the same and make sure that this community asset doesn't go through any situation like what it did where it was almost sold to a private individual. So the board meeting is December 10th. The planning commission is November 20th. Also on the November 20th planning commission agenda is the Sam's Chowder House left turn lane. I know a lot of people out here saw some work going on the east side of the highway by Sam's Chowder House, and it stopped. Not all of the permits were issued at that point, and so now they are going to the planning commission to receive the coastal development permit. That will be on November 20th as well. Lastly, the planning commission will receive an update on Plan Princeton. I would imagine Lisa, are you giving an update on that? Lisa's going to give an update on that, so I'll allow her to do that. She is a little bit more familiar with this project than I. One of my co-workers is leading it on behalf of Supervisor Corsi's office, and so given Lisa's involvement, I'll allow her to give you guys that update. Item number 2, last night I had the privilege of attending the El Granada Parent-Teacher Organization meeting where I informed them of an upcoming project, a project that the MCC is aware of, which is the Parallel Trail. The Parallel Trail is a multimodal commuter trail that runs conceptually primarily on the east side right-of-way of Highway 1. It would be the Midcoast version of the Naomi Package Trail of Half Moon Bay. Our first segment, per the recommendation of the Midcoast Community Council, will be from Marauder Road to Coronado Street, and the Transportation Authority Measure A funding source, bike and pedestrian funding source, will be having a call for project in January-ish, either late December, early January, and we would also like the letter of support from the Midcoast Community Council for that. We do have a little bit more time with that matter, though. And so we're excited about that. That's a project that we're looking forward to. Half Moon Bay is almost done with theirs, so it's time that we start moving on ours. I also had an opportunity to let the PTO know about the congestion management projects of the left turn lanes, pedestrian crossings, and raised medians that the county will be pursuing. And they were very interested in participating in the, not as an organization, but as individual parents and residents of the Midcoast. They're very interested for participating in the public engagement, which I'm excited to have them and hear their perspective. at the last meeting, right after I presented an update on what the county has been doing at Surfers Beach while working with Caltrans for a short-term temporary solution for the road embankment and erosion, as well as to allow us to construct the coastal access and the coastal trail in that area. After I provided my update, the Midcoast Community Council had asked if they could have a representative of the MCC or the community as an observer of these working group meetings that we're having. Supervisor Horsley said that the Midcoast Community Council could select someone for that purpose. And so, we're making very good ground on that. It's a difficult project. Getting state and local agencies to see eye and eye is not easy, but we're making great ground, and we're very optimistic about this. The Army Corps of Engineers had a meeting last week to provide an update on their study, and it was slightly disappointing to hear that they are several years off from doing anything. And so that really makes the work that we're doing to protect Highway 1, protect the trail there, and provide better access for recreational opportunities. It makes that work all the more important. So lastly, we wanted to let the MCC know, as some of you in the audience may know as well, watching at home, excuse me, the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors several years back adopted the update to the local coastal program, the LCP. Part of the LCP was that a transportation management plan has to be conducted prior to any changes to the LCP being made that would increase land use or residential density or anything. So given that we have the Princeton plan going on that could be perceived as doing so, we need to get this transportation management plan going. And so Supervisor Horsley and Supervisor Carol Groom, who's the Coastal Commissioner, are going to sponsor an agenda item for the Board of Supervisors requesting $500,000 to conduct this transportation management plan. This transportation management plan will encompass Half Moon Bay and the Midcoast. It'll look at Highway 1, 92, and other arterial roads, and look at how do we provide better policy, how do we create better policies, and create better programs to mitigate the congestion out here on the highway. These things are not just policies and programs, but it's how do we work with alternative forms of transportation, how do we work with Samtrans to mitigate the traffic out here. So that item will also be going to the board on December 10th, and we would love to get a letter of support from the Midcoast Community Council.
Excuse me, Nicholas?
Yeah.
Our next meeting is December 11th.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult.
No, I think we already provided a letter of support from Lost Beach, did we not? Or not doing another one?
I believe,
Oh, go ahead.
It was a one-sentence letter. And when you asked for that, I was thinking, well, that was already approved, so we could just sign something to flush that out.
which one
But
is this one?
that was on Moss Beach Park.
Got it.
In August, when they all came.
Yes, I do
yeah.
recall.
If you wanted something more formal, I think
Yeah, we all
need to vote
voted on
again.
that, so, yeah.
Okay, all right.
But this one is a new topic, and
Right.
although it's pretty standard reporting these things, we could, I don't know if we need a special meeting to do that.
Oh, we'll discuss the details after the meeting, and we'll figure out something.
One of the things that, maybe I would throw out there is, if you can't get everything together to approve a letter, maybe you take an emergency vote tonight to send a representative of the MCC to the next meeting, to the December 10th Board of Supervisors meeting. Although you won't have a letter, you'll be able to speak on behalf of the council. Just kind of throwing it out there, see what you guys think. So that will be happening on the 10th, and that is my report.
Okay,
Anyone have any questions?
thank you very much.
Awesome.
All right, we're now going to public comment. Anybody may speak up to 3 minutes on any topic that is not on the agenda, and the council may not discuss or take action on the items. Would you like to speak?
Well, Nicholas mentioned November 20th and parks. Also on November 20th, so the planning commission better be done by 3:30, is the LAFCO meeting where sanitary district's application to reorganize the community services district is going to be considered by LAFCO. So it'd be nice if people showed up to that.
Oh, that's for public comment as well?
It is the hearing, and it starts the process. The goal is to get it on the June 2014 ballot for the residents of the district to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Also wanted to mention the election itself. It was kind of disappointing, even though I came in a reasonably close second. The turnout was pretty abysmal for an election with such controversy. I think that with the final vote by mail ballots that were posted today, it's probably about 25% of the registered voters. We all know that registered voters is like half the population. So it's really very small, but the interesting thing is that the gap from second to third is much, much bigger than the gap from third to sixth. There's only a few votes separating third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And, you keep hearing the old cliche, every vote matters. Well, in this election, every vote really did matter. And it would have been nice to have more people learn about the issues and cast informed votes. So stay tuned. The order has flipped twice now. The fourth, fifth, and sixth place finishers have flipped twice between Friday, yesterday, and today.
Wow.
I mean, major shifts too. The fourth place finisher dropped to sixth and is now back in fifth. And the sixth place finisher moved up to fifth and now is back to sixth.
Wow. David?
Somebody over here was raising their hand, I couldn't see.
Hi, Dave Busbury, Moss Beach. I just wanted to point out that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at Hatch Elementary School, the school board is going to be meeting, and on the agenda, they're going to be receiving input from the consultants that are looking at the allocation of Measure E funds, as well as funding strategy for Cabrillo Unified School District. A number of concerned parents will be attending tomorrow night's meeting to discuss an option that hasn't been looked at, as I understand it today, which is bringing back school buses for use for all students. Currently, they're just being used for low-income students. When I grew up here on the coast, all students had access to school buses, and this is definitely remove some of the traffic impacts, something that affects everyone, parents and non-parents alike. So I would request that people please do show up tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at Hatch Elementary School. There will be an opportunity for public comment. Speakers get, I believe, 3 minutes each. And please do turn in the speaker slip and speak on the topic of school buses. We look at as one of the considerations for funding allocation. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Hello, Chris Johnson from Northern Knob. I want to bring to attention to the community the great work of Laura Stein and also Chris Lang of the Poolside Design Review Committee. Laura and Chris and Nicholas has been also involved in this. Have been really, Laura has just really been working hard. She didn't know I was going to make this comment. Really been working hard because the committee has not been fully staffed for many, many months now. In fact, we melted down at the last meeting where we could not even hear a project because we only had one person that was eligible to hear that project, and it requires a minimum of 2, and a fully staffed committee is 3 for each community. So thanks to Laura and Chris, who's not here right now, and Nicholas, we now have a fully staffed committee with 2 architects. A new architect was just assigned or accepted, and Laura and Chris are getting very close to having a completed roster that includes alternates for each community, so that we will not have the problem that we had last month of not being able to even hear a project. And I just really want to thank you because I know it's hard to get those things happening, to get people interested and involved in that particular committee. But without a fully staffed committee, that committee doesn't really function properly. And so thank you for that, Lieutenant.
Well, it feels so nice to be appreciated, thank you. And I do have to give a shout out to Nicholas, because he has been the person who gets my lengthy 10-page emails about what we have to do to get it back together, so thank you, Nicholas.
I have one thing
Go ahead.
that I would normally say under council activity, but since Nicholas brought it up about the Plan Princeton community visioning report that has been released, and he said the planning commission won't be hearing it, but anybody can read this document online. It's at, and it's nice, easy, readable document. And it's at www.planprinceton.com. You can, it's very interesting, and I think they did a great job. So,
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right, if not, I'm going to move on to our consent agenda. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to the regular agenda. The council can take action on the following items. We, here at the MCC, use a simplified version of parliamentary procedure called Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Individuals will be asked to make their presentation. Council members will then secondly ask questions of the presenter. At that point, then public comment will be opened. Then it closes, and it comes back to the council. Discussion takes place, and the council votes. So this evening, our first regular agenda item is the Big Wave North parcel alternative. What's going to happen is the project engineer, Scott Holmes, will give a courtesy presentation to provide us with an early overview of the proposed changes to the project, and this will be compared to what was denied by the Coastal Commission in August 2012. Following the presentation, you'll be able to ask questions of Scott about the revisions. The agenda item is strictly informational, so the council is not taking any action tonight. This is an opportunity to learn early on what the changes will be, and then to ask questions and gather information. I do want to point out that the permit application for this revised project is not considered complete. So the county planning director has issued a letter listing what additional documents are needed. And I'll point out here that you can find that at the Midcoast Community Council website, www.midcoastcommunitycouncil.org. And that will be a place for you to go to be updated on all the details around this project. Once that permit is deemed complete, it's then going to go through the county public hearing process at the Planning Commission, and it's at that stage where public comment would be made. So tonight, primarily, we're focusing on getting the information from Scott, and then there will be question and answer following his presentation.
I think this is on, is that right?
it's just for the TV.
Oh, it's just for the TV, I should hide it. I'm Scott Holmes. This is kind of my moment for bragging rights, but I realized I put 32 years as an engineer. That's not really bragging, that means I'm old. But I have a wonderful daughter who hopefully will live in Big Wave, and that's why I'm involved in it. I've been trying to put that together for a while, and a little bit of my background. I've been an environmental engineer for about 25 years. I've managed and designed wastewater and water treatment plants, including the one in Pacifica, which does pretty close to drinking water discharges. It operates really well. It took a little while to get it going, but I've been involved and designed a number of successful wetlands restoration projects, including San Pedro Creek Steelhead Restoration Project. It's about a mile of stream bed, and we planted over 100,000 native trees and wetlands plants. The population just grew tremendously, from a few hundred indigenous fish to well over many thousands actually. And Calera Creek frog habitat increased red-legged frogs from about 3 counted to almost 10,000. So there, a lot of these restoration projects, they have served public works, public need, and I find them extremely rewarding. And I feel Big Wave is really shaped to do the same thing. And I'm going to try to go quickly so there's some time for questions. But, you know, quickly what happened is we submitted a project through the county. It was approved by the county and rejected by the Coastal Commission about 2 years ago. And we're calling it the North Project Alternative because all the development shifted from the 2 parcels we own, and I have some pictures of this, to the one on the north. And it was developed to address all the concerns of the Coastal Commission and the CEQA lawsuits that were filed by a number of environmental agencies. And I spent the last year meeting with a number of people, and I think we've developed a project that successfully addresses all of those concerns. And as was mentioned, the project goes back to the Planning Commission once they deem their application complete. In some ways, it's not a new project. It's just a significant alteration of an existing one. And basically, we've increased, one of the big issues with the Coastal Commission was tsunami safety, and we've increased the first floor elevation to be 2 feet above the FEMA-approved emergency evacuation elevation. And that's one of the reasons we shifted north, because the site's a little bit higher. We've decreased the height of all the buildings. In the original application, they were 48 feet tall commercially, and now they're 33 feet tall, which is typical of a 2-story commercial. You can still squeeze 3 stories in it, but we're down to elevations that are comparable to what's in Princeton and in the surrounding neighborhoods. We reduced the number of business buildings on the site from 8 to 4, primarily because we moved 4 of the wellness center buildings to the what we call the office park site. We've increased creekside buffers from 100 feet in the county-approved project to 350 feet to the south of the creek and 250 feet to the north and 150 feet to the west. And these were all concerns the Coastal Commission wanted to make sure that the existing habitat was protected. I did want to say we do have a pretty, and I'll cover it, a pretty good restoration project which further improves frog habitat and other issues that are out there that are things that we appreciate and want to protect. We reduced the business density from potentially 533 employees, or it's actually, the traffic looked at 780 to a parking control of 420 employees, which is, it's still, and I'll explain that a little bit more detail. It's designed to meet a need. It's not a spec commercial project, but there are tremendous benefits to the wellness center. The more money that can be generated on site, the lower income residents we can be serving. And again, the project goals, low income housing for development of disabled coastside residents is critical. We have 160 members that are part of our CPALS organization, and most of them come from families that aren't wealthy. And so we've tried to come up with a integrated economic model that allows us to use public services, but also fill in the gaps, especially with the continued cuts that you're seeing in public services. And one of the goals is not just to provide a place to live, it's to provide a community where people like my daughter thrive. And it's kind of amazing to see her with her friends and a level of acceptance that she gets and gives, which I really appreciate. We're trying to also generate meaningful work. There's some kind of basic types jobs, but there's also, my daughter loves her job and they appreciate her. And I really appreciate setting up work that actually serves issues and things like that. So we've managed to create about 60 to 80 jobs just for special needs people on the coast associated with our project. And the business park, we're now integrated into the business park, which is kind of more of a mixed-use housing business development. And it allows us to generate revenue through the business, also from a square footage charge, and also a number of jobs just to operate the physical plants of both facilities. The business park, again, is business space that is not available on the coast side. And it's not speculative business. It's based on, we're not building a bunch of buildings and hoping people come. they're being built as the need arises. And there are about 3,600 people that commute over the hill, and mostly because places like GoPro that could establish here, there's nothing for them like this. And they were potentially interested, but our process is taking too long. There's still some other people that are interested, and we do have a creative community. And we have a very flexible plan in terms of developing facilities that would do it. But again, I'm on the board of the Wellness Center, and to me, optimizing its economic value on the site is what keeps us cost effective. We protect and expand existing wetlands. Again, I have a lot of experience in that. We have a very good biologist. We can look at significant improvements in red-legged frog habitat, which is really a great indicator species for a healthy environment. We're protecting existing farming also. And then these are really hard to see. I'm sorry about that. But what you have, this is what was approved by the county, and one of the things I have is a dollar laser pointer, which hopefully will work. These are the Wellness Center buildings. They're somewhat shorter than what was proposed. The office buildings, again, 48 feet tall, and these were 32 feet tall. What we've done is on the proposed project, unfortunately we flipped it over, but we eliminated the buildings on the 5-acre parcel and replaced the taller buildings in the office park with the shorter buildings that were on the 5-acre parcel. So we've gone down to 33 feet tall. For example, my house is 31 feet tall, so it's not an unusual building structure that you find in. My house isn't a big house. It's a nice, I like that. But that's not an unusual height for a lot of buildings in the area, and the elevations are similar to structures that we have in that location. I jammed together all of the architectural features on one slide. We're looking at kind of a redwood-looking structure. We have a flexible architectural plan, so we're open for some discussion on that. We're trying to keep surrounding the native plants and trees. Most of our site is flat. We have, a number of these facilities. I can get better pictures of it at some point. But, so we have, again, the landscaping plan includes areas that we currently have gardens in this area, public farms, additional area here, and then areas within existing wetland plus 100 feet are restored with essentially a riparian forest and then herbaceous type plants. On this site, same thing. We have about a total of 6 or 7 acres of additional wetland, and then we farm those strip around. And our goal with farming is to generate enough food to feed ourselves. And that's a big cost of living. Food could be up to $600 a month. We think we can generate enough eggs and local produce to trade it on farmers markets. So farming is a big important part of our project. We're going to obviously phase it. We're going to do most of the restoration and farming initially. And then, I'm sorry about this slide. It looks better on my computer. But these were the 5 wellness center buildings. Those get phased. This is a commercial building that would be phased in as needed. This is our main building. And then these are 12-unit residential buildings that are, well, this is a basketball court, gym. But we kept the lower buildings, 1-story plus basement buildings, adjacent to the residential units that are next to it. One of the goals, with Midcoast Green Foothills, for example, they felt residential should be associated with residential and not with the commercial portions of the city. So we have a potential storage area for boats, but we don't have any non-marine uses in this area that was zoned W. This is special use permit for residential, but zoned M1 commercial, not commercial, but industrial, office, and a whole series of issues in the planning. So this is kind of cut together as a drawing. This is up here is the existing. These are the rough height of the buildings, 32 feet. And then we have a landscaping plan that pretty much varies them. It's one of the features about moving to the north parcel was we had some potential for blocking this views of the ridge line from Airport Street. If you stand on Airport Street, we have a substantial growth of Monterey Pines. And cypress. I think it's mostly pine, but is that correct?
Monterey Pines.
Yeah, Monterey Pine. And you can, the height of the buildings doesn't impact the ridge line. That's a potential for in some areas. So I've completed planting. It's basically down here. And these are just plants that are in our planting plan. They grow quickly. We planted them in Pacifica. Within 15 years, you look at kind of this willow rush with the other plants that are inside. So let's see. I had this last slide was mostly to answer questions with rather than bore you with all the details. So what I'd like to do is see if the chair would like to field questions or how that, or
Yeah, I
can
think
field
what
questions or-
we're gonna
Okay.
do first is I'm gonna bring this back to the council to see if any council members have questions.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I actually have a group of questions, so bear
Okay,
with me.
okay.
Over 7 years ago, at the 2006 Midway pre-development public workshop, the business
I
park.
can remember 7 days ago. It's an outdoor.
I've got the handout.
Okay, good.
Anyway, the business park at that time consisted of 4 buildings versus 4 buildings today.
Yeah, 4 larger buildings.
And the buildings were 2 stories high then and versus 3 stories today. And they contained a total of 150,000 square feet versus 162,000 today. So my question is there any chance that the project could be scaled back at least as far as the 2006 proposal, which was proposed as supporting one of the goals?
Okay, I think at that point it was 162,000 square feet, but I'll compare
I've got the
notes. Okay, I'll look at that. I'm open to that. Again, it's, the way I laid out the 220,000 square feet, I was expecting some level of scale back, but I also laid it out in a point that it didn't trigger any significant impacts. And again, 162 is a big drop down from what the county approved, but it's, it's not, it's whatever the county approves again is what they're going to approve. But I feel that we've, the height of the buildings right now is lower than that original proposal. They were, I think the 3-story buildings were 54. The 2-story buildings were about, let's see, they were about 38 plus. So we're still about 5 feet shorter. And there's a likelihood, we're looking at a peak development level, and the likelihood of what the demand is could be substantially less than what the peak is. So, I'm not going to be the one that actually makes the call, but it's, from my perspective, is the higher the value of that, the higher the revenue we potentially have. So I don't want to have something that we can't make disappear or something that has a negative impact. And I think we've, all the traffic reports, including the recent one, have kind of indicated that there isn't a significant impact. And so, again, I'm not one to want to scale things back that has a negative value to us, but I'm not also the one that makes the call. And again, the difference between 150 and 162 is pretty insignificant at this point. So, how's that for a long answer to a short question?
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this, if people are interested, this 2006 plan is on the MCC website. If you want to see, it has whatever, it's all there. And I think that actually when we compare today, I think what we should be comparing is to the project that the Coastal Commission denied rather than the one that the county approved. Because it's the Coastal Commission's
Yeah.
issues that we need to overcome.
Yeah, and I did have a slide for that. I didn't include it. I can dig it up, though. It's
Okay,
similar. It's
Well, I mean, as we go
similar.
along, yeah.
But
As,
I can go back to the,
my next question, I have several related to the south parcel. The development density on the northern parcel with this new plan is relatively unchanged from the project that was denied by the Coastal Commission. The benefit from this alternative then is dependent on the protection of the southern parcel from future development and restoration of those wetlands. How can this outcome be guaranteed?
well, currently we're trying to, we have an informal agreement that we're trying to sell it as mitigation, which would generate money, which would be sold to a a company, well, an agency like Caltrans that needed to restore something and maintain something. So we left that on the table just for revenue generation. Any kind of guarantee is workable through the planning process. We don't have any plans to develop it, but we would like to be able to, again, when Caltrans screws up some road project, they have mitigation requirements, and we'd like to at least generate some revenue from this thing.
All right, would you consider locating the required coastal access parking on the south parcel along the edge next to the existing warehouses where it would be more useful to the public?
You know, I don't have it shown here, but after you mentioned that the last time we did, here's my laser pointer here.
As I understand it, at the moment, it's interspersed with the business parking.
Yeah, that's
on the parcel.
kind of the way it's, in some ways it'd be preferable to have less here, but we are, to allow that consideration, we're bringing the coastal trail from a class 2 trail to a class 1 trail and pulling it in that would allow that level of parking on the inside. But again, we're not planning on developing the site, so it'll be, and I'm sure the county, given input, will try to seal that fact that we're still trying to get revenue from the site. So those are all considerations. But if you look at the plan that's going to the county, this isn't a detailed plan. It does have the trail that pulls in, leaving enough for parking on the site.
On the subject of the building height and scenic views, regarding the public views of the ridge line, as we saw from the story polls in 2010, at that time the front row of business park buildings were 36 feet, as represented by the story polls.
Yeah.
The height of the front row of the buildings blocked the view of the ridge line from Airport Street.
I think it didn't.
And
I'm
let
pretty
me
sure it
ask you a
didn't.
question. Well, I have actual photos showing the story pole and how you can't see the ridge line. Would you consider lowering the building height of the front row buildings in order to help this issue? Like,
Yeah, well,
before you had the back row was 46 feet, the front row was 36 feet, so
yeah.
now they're all
Well,
there's something.
one thing that was noticeable, it's, the county plan had quite a bit of fill on it too, so we included that fill. The current plan, we've eliminated fill, which, I need to actually give, and I'll draw a section for you that shows, but there was about, 8 feet of fill on the county plan. We brought the building height above existing grade, probably 54 feet. And we're actually, if you look at the bottom line here, we reduced, fill, by 51%. Basically, the only fill, the only fill that's coming on the site now is, location down about between 12 inches and 20 inches of gravel. Before it had, and that was one of the issues that came up with the committee for Greenfield Hills. We did have a, sort of, you can see that.
Well, it's disturbing because, I mean, we're always told that the height is above existing grade, and now you're saying that no, actually it was 8 feet. It's
No,
like,
and that's why the height that was permitted was 54 feet, because there was, you
But
see
the
this is the fill line here that's been eliminated. It was basically filled a platform here, and then the buildings were built on it. If you look at this, that was an issue that was brought up. So
the story poles were put up to represent the maximum height of the buildings.
and the fill. They
And,
were put at
and they
54
did
feet.
block the view of the ridge line
Yeah.
from Airport Street.
And
So-
what I'll do with you now is that, it's pretty easy to draw it, but I have a Google section that you can, it literally does not block the ridge line. And
But
I'll
what
show
I'm
you.
saying is, the story poles that were put up in 2010, the front row of buildings was 36 feet.
With 8 foot fill, they were higher than 36
No, I
feet.
mean, I looked at the poles you had. They were 36 feet from
Okay.
existing grade.
Well, I will,
That's what you had.
Lisa, you're very good at this, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable with it. I will draw a section that has the piece of land in it, that shows the setting of the building set lower than they were, that they don't block the ridge line from somebody standing, and I do have that, so I'll get
So
that.
you wouldn't consider lowering the first grade?
Well, you know, again, I'd consider pretty much anything, but if they don't block the ridge line, which they're, again, the law actually says from Highway 1, not from, but we are gonna look at, not blocking the ridge line from Airport Street. But
Well, I mean,
if
that's
you're-
fine, but I just think that if it's going to be blocked from Airport Street, your application should say that.
Yeah,
And say,
well, it
oh,
won't
we
block the
tried-
ridge line from Airport Street, and I'll show that on a section.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, I'm not here to reduce development if it has no benefit to us indirectly, and if it has no significant reduction in impact. If it was blocking the ridge line, I think we'd have a hard time getting it through the coastal commission. But we specifically reduced all of the building heights and reduced the grading above elevation to set these things so that specifically did, because that was a concern that came up. So I'll draw a section with you, and then if it doesn't, we obviously don't want to be doing that.
I have another question. In your narrative,
Ask me when it's easy, please. No,
Pardon?
it's not fair to ask me all these hard questions. Ask me a
I'm
simple
near
one.
the end here. In your narrative regarding compatibility with neighboring development,
Yeah.
some loose comparisons are made, which I would just like to point out that the height of the Pillar Ridge homes is from 12 to 14 feet tall,
Yeah.
period. And, and it's fine, you can, I don't know, I'm just saying that, just to compare that to, 36 feet, whatever it is, it's like, I'm not saying, I don't know what
Okay.
I'm saying.
Well,
I'm just,
the only,
it's not the same
No,
as a
it isn't, but-
14-foot tall house.
okay.
It-
But
it's not.
the peak roof elevation of the mobile homes that are next to us is elevation 41. We're putting buildings.
Well, when you shift to elevation, that confuses people. Now, you've just shifted to
elevation
elevation
is
above sea level, and basically, let's just stick to above existing grade, so we're all on the same page.
Well,
But where you're putting those buildings is, let's say, virtually the same elevation as the first row of homes. They're, I would say if you look at your elevation plan, it shows at around 20 feet, and then the access road for GSB is around 22 feet, and we're at 22 feet. So I mean, you're,
Okay.
you know.
Well, look, the elevation of the peak roof on the mobile homes is about
I
41.
measured my house today,
Okay.
honest,
Okay.
it's 14 feet tall.
And that surveyed it. We're about 45 feet.
Well, okay,
So
so I'm
we're,
just saying, it's
we're a
not
little
really
bit
the
taller
same.
on the edges,
A
but
little bit, yeah.
we did keep shorter buildings. We do have a lower existing grade. We're about 4 or 5 feet taller from an elevation standpoint than the surrounding buildings.
All right,
The,
I'm fine with having the discussion, I just want accurate numbers. If you're gonna use hard numbers, let's have accurate numbers, that's
Okay.
all.
And those can be hard, even accurate, but I think they are accurate, personally, so we can discuss
It
hopefully
was
here.
difficult to measure my house, it was windy, but I managed to do it.
I'll
and
come back to
Trying
that.
to fix it.
It's more,
More
okay.
accurate. But it is, I specifically kept low-level buildings, which are a little hard to pick out from this. But these buildings here are the two, well, essentially one story with a basement.
With
Some of these
a
basements-
one-story basement. to
Yeah,
get
some
it
of the
up.
basements go well below grade,
I know, but your second story is at 30
at
feet.
34 feet, and which is
34
the
feet, so that's
tsunami
a big
element.
first floor.
And the
There's
reason
nothing in it.
we're at that, and we're keeping a 9-foot floor, we're not doing a 14-foot floor or anything else. But one of the requests from the coastal commission was 2 feet above the tsunami elevation, which is 32 feet. So that set our first floor. And the rest of it is whatever it is. But we have our lowest building is at elevation 8, the ground surface is 17, 18 feet. And that, 2 stories on top of that brings us up to about 44 feet. And that's close to, you were 41 feet, so we're within 3 or 4 feet of the height of most of that. But we're not towering over it. If you look at it, it's a 10-foot bush hides our buildings from your viewpoint.
Okay.
So that was what our goal was, is one is that if we had to eliminate that floor, we'd eliminate our buildings. So I made them as low as I could to meet the criteria. We're going to work out a landscaping plan that doesn't block any sunlight, that also blocks all the views of the building. And
Yeah,
that's something that.
You don't need to go
that's
into all that, I just wanted to make the point that
Okay.
our houses are no taller than 14 feet.
Um,
Anyway,
Yeah,
Another
that's about
question.
what I figured.
All right. Have you had any discussion with Granada Sanitary District regarding their access easement along the northern boundary that is shown fully landscaped on your plan?
You know, it's not a recorded easement, but we're gonna give it to them. So we're gonna maintain a 20-foot thing there, but there's no record of that map. And it used to be a sewer line that went to a treatment plant that's been abandoned. And I think there's a Montera sewer line in that road, so we're gonna maintain that road as an easement. So, I mean, but again, it's theoretically, it should have been recorded, and there's nothing there that belongs to Montera. They could try to
No, it's
make a
GSD.
quick claim, but,
It's
you know.
GSD's access.
But there's nothing there other than the road.
But they have property there. I just wondered if you had had any
We're-
discussion with them, is all.
We're maintaining it. So they asked for it, I think Leonard specifically asked to make sure that we didn't, so it's being maintained as a road. So,
Okay, I have one more question.
and that was just from the goodness of our heart, because I'm not sure legally we have to do it. But it was a request from GSD, so we're maintaining it.
One more question.
Please.
Could you explain the project,
I'm just
well,
checking.
not, the development agreement?
Yeah.
You spoke briefly about the project phasing, but what time range are you talking about here? And what development agreement are you seeking?
Well, I can go to what the, let's see, phasing plan, which is a little unclear, but right now I have a 20-year period. We've had some discussions with Committee for Green Foothill. I'd like to see it smaller, 10 years. But what I did was put what I thought was realistically going to occur. We're going to develop most of the wellness center, about, I'd say half of it in the first 2 to 5 years after the permit. The other half of it probably between 5 and 10 years. The office part, it's just really going to be when people want to build a building, and we want to leave enough time within the permit.
Could you just point to the buildings in the order that they would be built?
Okay. These two first, at this location, within the first 2 to 5 years, these are wellness center residential units, about 12 units each. So they're not, again, they're not large buildings from an apartment standpoint. Each apartment is about 650 square feet. There's about 12 of them per building, so that would be enough. We have currently about 25 core families. Then the second wellness center building is a taller building that has a restaurant below it, a movie theater, and then 2 floors of housing. And that would be
So that would be the third one?
that
you
would be
build?
this building right here. And we expect that to be built in somewhere between 5 and 10 years. The other building here, which is a commercial building for sale, would be somewhere in the probably 10-year range, which is a direct benefit to the wellness center. When we came from this site over here, we had a commercial facility that we're just moving with us to the other side. So when I was saying there's 4, these are 4, well, to give you an idea how this thing changed from the Coastal Commission, these are the layout buildings of the Coastal Commission. There were 2 other buildings out here that have been eliminated. And then the 2 buildings on this side have been eliminated to create the wellness center that was moved over here. These are the 4 buildings in the center of the project that was given to the Coastal Commission. So the for-profit has been reduced to 4 buildings. The wellness center is essentially the 5 that were over there. The increased wetlands buffer here eliminated 2 more buildings from the office park. And this is now 250 feet, and this is now 350 feet from any potential development. So these are going to be blocked from development in the permit process. So we're still trying to sell that, so we're not giving up, but it would be sold. The agreement that we're working on with the Committee for Green Foothills, that it would be sold for mitigation and open space. So that's kind of the answer to that question. But so this is a modified version of the Coastal Commission layout, with the exception that we put these 3 residential buildings that are up against the side. This one is a gym, by the way, and fitness center.
And what's the setback from the residential buildings to the property line?
We're 40 feet.
40 feet.
And the easement for the Granada Sanitary District is 20 feet.
It's 2013.
And there's plenty of room for that. And then there's another 20 feet that we're looking at planting some sort of tree, ideally we're gonna put in some fruit trees, but we have a matrix of trees that grow to about 15 to 20 feet tall that block the views from any of the residences on this side, but don't block the sunlight. That was one of the goals there. So this, and then this is kind of forested in the middle. So this is, it's really designed so you can't see it in Airport Street. And it also is designed so it doesn't block the ridge line.
Okay, so we're gonna move on
And some of
here
the
to
trees,
the next
again,
person.
some of the trees will block the ridge line.
Go ahead, Bill.
Hey, Scott, so I was going through some of the paperwork that Lisa had gathered from you, and I was a little bit concerned about the hexagon traffic report, where he kind of waves his hands and says that there are so many intersections on that portion of Highway 1 near the project that they function as the primary constraint to traffic flow. Quite simply, there isn't a segment of Highway 1 in the project area without intersections that is long enough to be a good candidate for link analysis.
Okay.
Therefore, he claims he doesn't have to do link analysis. Now, let me just finish the question.
Okay.
From where that land is, you've only got 3 points of intersections to Highway 1. You either have to go out Cypress, or you go south and you can go off North Capistrano, or you can go out at the red light at Capistrano. So that's 3 spots that they have to do a link analysis on and do a traffic flow. Why does he wave his hands and says, oh, I don't have to do this?
I'll wave my hands a little bit. I was a traffic engineer for the city of Pacifica. So the hand waving is actually systematic. It's all pretty much follows some level of programming. But there's segment analysis where there's something in that segment which generates a traffic congestion issue, which would be a tunnel, for example, or a windy road, or something that the garbage trucks have to go up. If there's nothing in one of those segments that generates a traffic congestion issue, then it's the intersections that control those segments that generate traffic congestion. So all he was saying when he was waving his hands was to say there's no segment that has an obstruction to traffic. The intersections are the controlling factors in traffic generation. So he's justifying his analysis. And these analyses weren't done, he wasn't an expert selected by the bigwig, he was by the county. He's the one that does all the county traffic work for all the cities. And that's the difference between, and segmented, you only do a segmented if a segment has a congestion issue that's not related to the intersection. And that would be, again, Highway 92 is a good example. You have garbage trucks going up it, going slow. Big segment problem, they added a lane. And double slide to a certain extent, it's the same type of issue. So
Isn't all the airport the same? I mean, there's really no passing there when there's a bus going up.
it's a straight, flat road, that everybody drives at 70 miles an hour between the intersections, and they hit stop signs or crossings. And the real control issue is the light at Capistrano. And the rest of it is nobody lets anybody merge, so there isn't, I drove Pacifica, probably 20 years, and the traffic going that way is not impacted by segments. It's impacted by load and intersections, Montero is the first
So
one.
does that mean they don't do a traffic analysis at each one of those intersections for
No,
the amount
that's
of?
what they did. They did an analysis at each intersection, which was controlling for congestion, because there was nothing between the intersections that would cause congestion. There's no hill or curves.
Well, all of Princeton is a congestion.
Well,
I mean,
but no,
seriously.
all of that congestion is intersection and
Well, and
volume of traffic
And pedestrians and
and
bicyclists
pedestrians and all that stuff. But it's not like a windy
and boat
road
trailers and
whatever else.
trucks,
So
okay.
but it is volume. It all goes one way in the morning and all goes the other way in the afternoon, so pretty much.
Well, the issue is,
Pardon me?
excuse me.
You can follow
Well, I mean,
that.
if you're going to 92, it's no pleasant.
I mean, we have traffic going both directions on Highway 1.
going that.
The
But
issue is
driving north
capacity,
on-
that's
pardon?
what the issue is capacity, and so
It
we
is.
can talk about whether, it's 35 or it's 70, and we
Yeah.
can talk about different intersections, but if you add that many cars to the road, what type of mitigation is being done for us poor souls on
Okay.
Route 1?
Well, the issue is capacity, peak capacity during, and it is commute traffic. If you notice, one lane's full in the morning going north, going south, and one lane's relatively uncongested. So the peak issue on Highway 1 is an AM peak related to workday weeks. And then it's also a PM peak. And what's nice about providing work and business in Princeton is that it's always using the underutilized side of the road. It's taking traffic in when traffic normally would go out. It's reducing the peak guys and putting them on the non-peak. So when you're saying peak traffic, it's always specifically what lane you're doing it on. So you put business down in Princeton, it's reducing people on the peak side and putting them on the non-peak side, which is...
In theory.
Well,
But anyhow, I don't want to go there right now.
well,
Here's my
even
question. What
one
kind of
car
mitigation would be
does-
provided? Because I don't feel like I'm getting any information
Okay.
here.
Well, the mitigation, there's two types of mitigation. They're making us head all of our traffic through Princeton instead of through the neighborhoods. And they're also requiring us to buy an intersection somewhere. So
Have
we
you
have
gone
to.
through Princeton where you have to stop, especially a
Yeah,
Saturday or
that's-
Sunday?
and
Like
that-
every
those-
10 feet?
Yeah, those, I have. I come here all the time. And that essentially is at the same time. Everything in the morning goes out. You don't want to be leaving Princeton at 8:30 because all the people are taking their kids to school, all the people are going to work. It's not bad coming in. Like I'll come in and buy stuff. I come in all the time to work on the farm. It's great coming in, but I really am reluctant to come in if I know I'm going to have to leave between 8 and 9 o'clock to get out of here. So coming in's easy. I live in Half Moon Bay. Coming in's easy at any time of the
No,
day.
I'm asking about the mitigation.
Okay, so I'm just saying our traffic impact just coming in is not bad. The mitigation, they're charging it at current $150,000 to fix an intersection. But if you look at the traffic report closely, we don't have a significant impact on traffic, and that's what it says over and over again. The mitigation requirement is because the county wants to charge us $150,000 for an intersection. But if you look at the counts, there's virtually no impact on the intersections because we're almost always reverse traffic on the side that's not busy. And the reason I know that is I drive into Princeton constantly in the morning. It's not a bad drive. But driving out of Princeton is crummy because you have a lot of people that take their kids to school. You have a lot of people that go to work. So you don't want to be in that group of traffic. And the beauty of Big Wave is that it literally takes reverse traffic. And even if it's one employee, it's a benefit. But anybody, say we have, and if you look at the census, they use census data on I could talk about traffic forever being a traffic.
What traffic report are we talking about?
Pardon me?
What traffic
We
report?
had 6 of them done by the county. But if you look at
And
them,
where would we find those?
other,
You know where they are?
Lisa
Okay,
has them all.
great.
But they're all, they all show reduced intersection traffic. And they base it on the fact that at least some people that live in El Granada or Half Moon Bay would probably work here. And they assumed it would be similar to census data for how many people that work locally. And if you take any of those folks and take them off the highway going over the hill in 92, you reduce traffic on the coast side.
Okay, I
And
need
that's
to move on here. Dan, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I have-
Oh, did you have more?
I
I'm
have
sorry.
one other,
Go ahead.
and this is just a suggestion. So, the primary purpose of this is to have a wellness center for disabled people on the coast side.
That's my purpose primarily, yeah.
Okay, and the original idea was that the commercial buildings would help support and pay for the cost of those. Is there gonna be some kind of deed restriction to make sure that none of that gets converted for 50 to 100 years and that it remains for disabled people, so we know it's really the true objective of the project?
Yeah, I mean, that's easy to get happen. You know, that's what should happen with the coastal commission in the county.
Okay.
So it's not, that's usually what does happen. But if you remember, the coastal commission just rejected the project. They didn't ask for that. But every other project I've worked on that's proposed a specific type of use, the coastal
Well, right
commission.
now, there are no restrictions on that, so
No,
10 years
right now
into
we-
it, if things don't pencil out, it could be turned over for some
Okay,
other type of
but those are
enterprise.
issues. Right now, we're starting the planning process. Normally, when you have a use that's out of compliance, which is what we would be as housing, but there's no land zoned in the county anywhere for developmentally disabled housing. You need a use permit. And that goes for any place like that. So we would get a use permit specifically for that type of housing. Unless the county's asleep at the wheel, we can't convert that because we're out of compliance, unless you guys are.
We don't want to talk about that record with the county right now.
Okay.
Not while
But
Nicholas is here, it'll
the
just make him
county-
cry.
The county isn't asleep at the wheel, and you guys certainly aren't asleep at the wheel. So if we're doing an illegal use out there, somebody's gonna bring it up. And it's not zoned for housing, so it's not zoned for conversion of housing. It can be converted to commercial, and that's probably what would happen. We're building buildings that probably could be, sold commercially for office park, but they can't be zoned for housing. And the county does not give use permits if it's out of compliance.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so
That's
abrupt.
too much detail.
I have to worry about the time here.
Go ahead.
And I
Dan,
talked
go
too
ahead.
Can we please go to the elevation you have? I think it's the revised north parcel project.
These ones are,
The-
that,
Not the plan, but the elevation that shows the
well, I
ridge
have
line
this,
in the
believe it or
background.
not, this little, I stuck the elevation on top of the scale
With the ridge line in the background,
Okay.
you have and the other building.
of the color picture. Yeah,
There we go. Yeah, the row in the middle.
that's from Highway 1.
So you're saying that the height of the large buildings are 33 feet max?
33 feet high, max.
That's from the ground or from the
There's
bottom of the
a-
basement?
On one side, on some of the lots, there's about 3 feet of drop. So one side is 33 feet, the other side you have to account for the drop. So we have a maximum elevation above existing ground of 36 feet. So it's going to vary between 33 and 36 feet, depending on where you sit on the building. But some of these lots, there's only a 1-foot drop, so that would be a 34-foot height above existing ground. The other project, if we had 8 feet of fill in there, then it would be, you add the fill to the height of the building and ended up with 54 feet. Now we're looking at 36 feet.
And is the plan to use wood construction? Is that? Wood
You
frame?
know, we're probably going to have to use fire-resistant construction just because we're connecting to Montera,
So concrete?
water and sand. It'd be steel and concrete probably.
Okay.
And we're going to make the outside look wood. You can make the outside look like anything, but there's not a lot of fire water service, and that, if you don't have a 1-hour rated building, the flow goes through the roof,
So with steel and concrete, you can get 9 foot per story?
We have a 9-foot clear space per story, and then there's going to be a foot or two of whatever. So we have 11 per story. That's why we came up with 33.
Okay, including the roof?
There's roof trusses and stuff like that, and there's space between them. And we also had a 34-foot elevation required for tsunami, so that's why the first floor is up about a floor. So,
And just brief last question, can I ask, what effort did you do to see that presentation is to scale with everything?
I actually worked with the guy that did it. We used Google Earth, which has a good perspective thing, and it would take the buildings and would actually give a height of the building. Then I worked with a magazine group that actually took the pictures and expanded it to the height on the Google Earth thing provided by the architect. So it's pretty accurate. So, and it took me a lot of hours to do it, so I have a photograph for that.
Len, you had a question?
Well, just in talking about it, and as you note there, you're doing it from Highway 1, but you
Yeah.
have commented on the coastal trail passing through there along Airport Street. And I think it would be fair to the public to give an impact picture to show what the view would be.
Yeah, I
like
can do
from
that.
the coastal
I
trail.
actually drew cross sections that took Highway 1, Airport Street, the building, the elevation of the building to grade, ridgeline.
But, and I think,
I didn't show it,
exactly
but-
why I'm talking about it, because it's a much greater impact at Airport Street. And
Yeah.
just for fairness, I think.
And to be honest with you, a stop sign on Airport Street can block a ridgeline view. So we're, it's whatever happens to be right in front of your face, but we're actually far enough back. Our building faces are set back 125 feet, and they're down, let's see, the part of Airport Street, the difference through Airport Street comes up, it's from elevation 27 to 28 feet. Our buildings are between, the ground surface is between about 18 and 22 feet. So you have a 6-foot person looking on that, and that is an easy section to draw. And then we know the ridgeline's about 140 feet there. Here it's down to about 110, which is the problem. So the Coastal Commission, this was the one piece of the ridgeline that was blocked. That part of the ridgeline isn't blocked. And I'll draw a picture of it. I should have had that. I didn't realize it would be such a concern.
Did that
But
answer
I
your
can also
question?
draw the trees and everything else that
Sure.
will, because the ridgeline will be blocked, because we have a layer of landscaping in there that there's native trees that are going to be 25 feet tall, so. That also blocks the view of the buildings too, by the way, so.
You done? Okay, I want to open public comment. Could you give me an idea, we're going to do something a little different. How many people have questions they'd like to ask? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Okay, I have scheduled until 8:45, and of course, we'll go over if there's more questions, but what we're gonna do is use the traveling mic, number one, and I think Dan's gonna help administer that. The one thing I wanna ask is that you keep in mind your, fellow question askers, so that we make sure we have enough time for everybody to get their, questions asked as far as how much time you take to speak. And who would like to,
Give your name and town.
oh, good point. Could you please make sure to give your name and your town when you first comment? Yeah, you can just pass it around, I guess. Sure.
Two questions. First, Dave Olson. First question is the 33 feet include the mechanicals like air conditioning on top of the building?
You know, it does, and we're not looking at air conditioning on top of the building. We have opening windows, and it includes the solar panels that are on top of the roof.
Okay, and...
It includes anything. That's the height, maximum height that we're going to have.
Right. And the other question I had was looking at the information on the website and from what you've said, it sounds to me like there are no commercial buildings being built in phase one the first 5 years at all. Is that correct?
You know, there could be if there's a buyer for something, but currently we haven't marketed or got any buyers. But if we do have a buyer, yeah, we'll build one right away. It's a need-based provision. So, I mean, from a wellness center standpoint, our revenue levels are higher for a building than they would be for land, but we still have revenue for land. We still have to pave it, we have to farm it, we have to do all that stuff to keep it in the loop. So there's money to be made by us regardless. So I can answer a question. Do you want me to field the questions, or would you like to field them?
Go ahead.
I can't tell from the lights if this is on or not. Okay.
Your name and where you come from?
Leonard Warren, El Granada.
Thank you.
I got a bunch of comments and questions, but maybe I'll do some of them and then see if I can come back around after other people. Short answer, please. Are you going to put up new story poles, since this is pretty much a new project?
We're not planning on it, but we'll do what the county wants us to do. But it's generally for commercial buildings, they don't do it. You know, they do it for residential buildings and impact, so.
Okay. And I'm going to do something really strange, and so don't hit me, but I'm partially going to agree with Scott over Bill. When you're analyzing traffic congestion, you do not look at unrestricted road segments. You look only at the impediments, which are intersections. And that's exactly what Scott said, and I've been on this case. You know, Nicholas can show you the bruises from a previous council meeting where I made this point. You analyze intersections, because intersections are what causes congestion. So give up on the segment analysis. It's not relevant in any scenario. Now, segueing into congestion, the reverse commute description that you just gave is either naive or disingenuous. I don't know which. And I'll give you a really clear, obvious example of why. Traffic coming out of Princeton in the morning is going to come up Prospect, and some of it's going to turn right and go out South Capistrano, and some of it's going to turn left and go out North Capistrano. Now, there's a stop sign on Prospect. There's no stop sign in either direction on Capistrano, which means Capistrano traffic has the unrestricted right-of-way. And so what's going to happen is your so-called reverse commute. People are going to come in from South Capistrano. They're going to turn left on Prospect, and if that's a continuous enough stream, the people on Prospect are never going to be able to get out on a left turn there. They're going to be stuck forever without being able to make the left turn to go out North Capistrano. And so that's why I'm saying that the reverse commute argument and empty lanes is quite disingenuous.
I do have an answer to that, by the way. So let's don't forget that, but I could answer that. And I think I'll just say one more thing now and then pass the microphone around and see if it can come back to me later. And this is not really in the way of a question for Scott, but
There was a big issue during the campaign saying GSD sued to stop the project. That is absolutely not true. GSD did not sue to stop the project. We sued the county because the county did not properly give GSD responsible agency status as CEQA requires. And the problem is that CEQA, state law, California Environmental Quality Act, requires in the particular circumstances that existed, we had to name the real party in interest, which is Big Wave and Scott. We didn't want to do that. We had no choice. And all that's required for the lawsuit to go away, which as far as I know hasn't happened yet, is for the county to stipulate to the court that they will give GSD responsible agency status when appropriate under CEQA in the future. And the county hasn't done that yet, and so the lawsuit still doesn't go away. So Big Wave people need to go rag on the county and get them to do what the law requires them to do and stipulate that they will in the future.
Well, can I answer both those questions before we go on to, there were two that came out of that. One of the, at the intersection of Prospect, there's, the majority of the traffic is heading south through Capistrano. So that left turn's not restricted in the morning by people coming in from the south or from the north. It's only restricted, well, a right turn is where everybody's going. There's very little. And there are a couple of things you can do to pick up traffic there, which the county could consider. You can have a left turn lane with a stop sign and a free flowing right turn lane. But again, most of the traffic is going right because that's a traffic pattern to get through the intersection at Capistrano where there is a light, and that's where 92 goes. So if you look at the traffic count, the majority of it's at that location. The other issue in terms of
No back and forth, no.
Well, but
Okay.
again, he's being disingenuous because the current situation on the ground is that one person waiting to make a left turn there completely stops traffic until that left turn happens.
Okay, but again, most people don't do that. They go right because they want to wait.
It doesn't matter because all it takes is one person
Okay.
and the traffic is blocked.
Well, and my answer to that was there's room for a left turn pocket and that one person can wait until the cows come home. And that's probably what the county should be doing on that and having a free right turn. But that's a traffic mitigation issue, which I suggested. They said they didn't even need it, so they didn't accept it. But it could be easily handled. The other issue was the county in the draft EIR didn't grant that status to GSD, so GSD brought it up, and it was in the final EIR. So it, again, they were given responsible agency status in the final EIR, clearly stated that, so they were given that. So I'm not real clear why the lawsuit hasn't been dropped or what hasn't been worked, but those are all legal issues that seem to be resolved or resolvable. We've met with your attorney a number of times. The county can do whatever they want to do, but they've already granted that status to GSD. So some of this is a mystery to me, but you know, I'm working it out. And maybe I am naive, I don't know. I must be naive because I'm working on this project, but that's one
David,
of my
if you want to give your
assets.
name and where you live.
Sure. David Vespremi, Moss Beach. So Scott, let me just start off with a picture that we're looking at. How tall is that fence?
How tall is what?
That fence?
That fence is about
6 feet tall?
I'm standing over it taking a picture, so it's
Right.
it's about 6 feet, but the roadway is about 3
No, but let me just start there. So I'm about 6 feet tall. So this photo that we're looking at, I'd be about 25 feet tall, sort of the Godzilla perspective. I'm about 2 feet hovering over the fence to get that look. And this is something
I
that,
took a
well,
picture. I'm standing on the roadway.
Scott, let me just finish
Okay.
before you jump in. This is something that we called you out on years ago.
Yeah.
And we showed you on Google Earth why the Godzilla perspective wasn't, it's, to use Leonard's word, it's disingenuous, it's misleading, and
Okay.
it doesn't give an accurate picture. And when the story polls went up and when Lisa took those pictures and we compared them to your renderings, we showed why this was not right. And we're back to the same tactics, which brings me to kind of the bigger picture issue, which is, you know, I think everyone here in the community is sort of happy to humor you ad nauseum on this, but at some point, you know, to do the good deeds that you want, you've got to find a suitable location for it. And what you heard from the community here and what you heard from the Coastal Commission is, and not to mince words, this isn't the right location for what you intend to do. You know, instead of seeing you scale things down, which has got to be heartbreaking to you, and, you know, frankly, is a waste of our time, we'd like to see you scale something up, go big, go really big, double the size of everything, but do it somewhere where it's appropriate. And you know, this back and forth that we're having right now over details to me is pointless, because you've simply picked the wrong location for what you intend to do. And you know, you can sort of fine-tune details, but ultimately you're fine-tuning details on something that's incompatible. And really, fundamentally, the way that you're going to have to get around this, and I'm being totally straightforward with you here, it requires a rezoning. You can't force special use permits and other sort of loopholes to cram this thing in when what you really want to ask the county for, and if you feel the county owes it to you, by all means ask them for a rezone of those parcels. Then we can reset, and then we can recalibrate, and then we can look at this project anew. But right now, this is lipstick on a pig, and it's, you know, there's no point in even going over the details.
I would like to respond to a couple of things on that. I'm standing on an elevation that's approximately elevation 50 feet. The top of these buildings is approximately elevation 50 feet.
Look,
I'm taking a horizontal picture. I'm standing on the roadway right next to that fence. That fence is sloped down.
It galls me that we have this
I'm
exact
gonna
same.
allow people to go back and forth, so I can jump in here. I thought we were gonna be civil here,
Yep.
just for informational purposes.
Hey,
not
Jeff,
to deal with
Jeff.
dialogue against the project. Now we're going back and forth. You set the
Well-
ground rules, said that wasn't gonna happen. Now you're
No,
gonna.
hey, Jeff,
you're not-
hey, Jeff, just
Jeff, you
relax.
haven't
I
been
can answer the
recognized. You
question.
should wait your
But
turn.
I did take the picture. I did take it as representative as I could. I didn't take it looking down. I didn't stand on the top of a thing. I'm standing on Capistrano Street section, right between the stop sign where it turns in, and that's where I am. So I'm not trying to fake it, because I've been accused of faking this thing so many times that I really tried to do it correctly. And then as far as addressing what's appropriate, we're coastside residents. There's no place on the coast side that you can build anything. And there's no place in the county that's zoned, that has a zoning for this type of building. Any place you go requires a use permit. And you can build, and it's mostly because if it's a residential neighborhood, my daughter's she went to kindergarten at Hatch. The lieutenant of the police force tried to keep her from going to that school.
Scott, you know what,
So
probably this is the
okay.
wrong we're
There's
getting
no
too
place.
global.
It's global, but I'm sorry.
I want to focus this on, right now, this is questions about
Okay.
the changes here. There will be a time to have comment when the county takes over this process to complete the permit. So if we could just try to keep some focus here, because I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask their questions. Elizabeth?
Well, no, I'm not sure if we can go back to step one, which I think David kind of hinted, that we have a very scarce zoning for this type of area, which the community badly needs. And I also puzzled that why would the county consider, I think you called it a special use permit for residential. There is no residential development, frankly, at large, period. And you're right, no one has this type of development, but man, we have a whole bunch of affordable housing unbuilt sites which could be easily use permitted for your purposes. But to change the zoning, which was really designated for something else, and we can't replace those, I'm wondering, again, I mean, I don't know why you think this is personal. That's an absolutely basic question. If you have a zoning and you're proposing something which is absolutely against the zoning, the proper avenue is rezone it. Then the county has to do a feasibility study, and the county and you can prove it that that's the right use, because the other uses are not needed or not correct, and forget about them.
Is there a
But
question there? Because right now we want to ask
the question
questions.
is, again, why would you take away a good zoning for something which can put somewhere else, which we can't replace as a community?
Well, the answer to that is there's no place in the county that you can put this without a use permit.
There are two big affordable housing sites at Moss Beach.
Well, those you couldn't even build on. We looked at those, but that's another issue. They've been unbuilt on for 20-something years. But
Yes.
this particular land was donated to our center. It's buildable. It's legally buildable. You need a use permit for special needs housing, because without that use permit, They wouldn't let you build it in a residential area.
But you
They wouldn't let you build it
replacing
in a commercial
something
area.
else.
Excuse
Doesn't
me,
have-
one moment. I want to pull this in because what we're having this for is for project revisions, the revisions between what the original plan was and then comparing that to what the coastal commission is requiring. So that's what I'm trying to keep it focused on.
That was the question, everybody's question, that why here, right? So that didn't change.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Why here? That didn't change. I was asking why this didn't change.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's a valid question.
Well,
Pardon me?
It's a valid question, right?
Well, the Coastal Commission didn't want it in the W zone, which is waterfront. So it's in a commercial zone, which is legally approved with a use permit for this type of housing. And it's considered a little bit more commercial, it's run like whatever, but it is a legal zoning determination by the county. So
Right, but this
we
is
would need
also
that
not the
legal
housing.
determination anywhere. And the problem with special needs housing is nobody wants it near where they live.
It's nothing to do with the need. It has to do with the
That's just
housing.
a fact of life.
You know
That's
what,
why-
we need, seriously, we have to move along or no one else will get
And
time here.
there's virtually none in the county. There's a lot of need and there's no housing in the county.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Patricia Stevenson. I live in Moss Beach. I kind of have just a couple of comments and a couple of questions. When you first put your story poles up and I ate breakfast at Airport Cafe, I could barely see the tops of the tree lines above your story poles. And that was pretty much level ground from where you're standing on the elevated highway. And and if you have a bunch of traffic coming in the morning and we're trying to turn left onto Stanford Street and you have a flow coming from the center street, it's definitely going to impede traffic coming out of there, and as well as the intersection he was speaking about. And I'm just wondering how, if you're not going to elevate that lot and you're pushing them so far to the back towards the creek, it floods back there. I mean, it's a natural
Well,
wetlands.
we're out of the 100-year flood. That's an issue, but we're above that too, by the way.
And
But-
I find it kind of ironic to restore the lower lot after bringing in truckload after truckload and truckload of dirt to back to wetlands. But that's a whole nother subject. And I was just wondering also, how are you going to choose who lives there? If you have 150 families that are fighting for this project, but you're only going to be able to house 50, and during the last public or environmental impact meeting, you had people coming in from Danville, from Scotts Valley, saying how they'd love to have their child in this facility. And I'm wondering, is it really going to be just for the coastal families locally, or is it going to kind of go to the highest bidder? I mean,
Well, again, it's a non-driving group, but we have 25 core families that are very interested in doing it. There is going to have to be a selection for the other, 15 to 50, well, it's 50 total is what's going to live there. So there will be some selection process, but it's a community that you have to be able to integrate yourself into. And, again, it's hard not to answer some of your others. We added about 1 inch of soil onto the other side, and it was it was horse manure and chips. And you can't, and I surveyed it. I know exactly the case. I surveyed it before and after. So, I
And
mean,
it's still-
it was
and it's still soggy
350
when it
yards
rains
roughly
down
before it
there
got stopped. But that's
forever.
another issue altogether, but I had to feel like I
And
addressed that.
my other comment really is the fact that you keep saying, oh, you just don't want the wellness center. If it was just the wellness center, I would have no opposition to it whatsoever. It's the extra flow of traffic. It's all these people that are going to be coming in. It's already unsafe to walk for my children to bike through Princeton. And to say that the traffic's not going to impact that on the streets that are already narrow, don't have any sidewalks, of course, Mr. Peck says, well, that's not my property, so what can I do about it? It's definitely going to impact people that already live there.
But
You know.
again, you mentioned the Stanford intersection. That's an open road that's in it, not affected by traffic that's coming into this site. So,
Well,
I mean,
but if they're
that's-
coming down the center street and coming up Airport Road towards the park, and people are trying to leave out that direction, it's definitely going to impact people trying to turn left to get through Princeton. I mean, yes, I guess we can all drive down straight to the stop sign, then we're all going to congest into the center road.
No, there's a stop sign on Stanford. Those guys can't you're going around them on the left turn. They're coming.
No, if they're coming from the center street, though, by the
Well,
fish
we can talk
market,
about that.
Excuse me, 1 second, okay? What's happening is people are expressing their concerns, and then it's a back and forth counter argument, and I'm not sure that's effective. Are you through with your questions?
But
Oh,
I
if
wouldn't
you
mind
have
talking-
more, go ahead.
But I wouldn't mind
Chris is
talking to you
next.
individually too. if you
Chris is
wanna-
next, yeah, I saw Chris is
And then
hand up.
Jeff, and then Jeff.
Okay.
But again, I did want to make that offer. If you want to have coffee with me, I can go over this stuff in great detail. So I'll give you an email address. And
next to the Spanish town in Half Moon Bay where they're supposed to build a big park, I think that would be just a far
Okay.
more opportune place where there's public amenities. You said you wanted to use the public amenities as a place.
Okay, well, you know, I could certainly like to do it in Princeton too, but I'll give you my email and we can get together.
Chris Johnson, El Granada. Hi, Scott. Probably easiest question for the night, just a simple one. I am worried about the traffic, and I just am wondering, has the traffic survey been done since the tunnel opened? Because you're talking about this reverse commute and stuff, and my anecdotal evidence is that the traffic flow is different since the tunnel has opened. And so my simple question is, has a traffic survey been done since the tunnel opened?
You know, they might require an update for that, but there hasn't. Well, actually, we did have I'll have to look at what the date was on the last one. Again, the county concern is probably going north, so that would be one of the things they'd address. But that's an update that can be considered.
Any other questions, Chris? Okay.
Jeff has it.
Jeff?
No, I don't really have any questions. I'm trying to be civil here, and are we here to make comments? I can make all sorts of comments.
No, we
I
were
can
here
go on
for
for 10 minutes and comment.
No, the focus this evening is strictly on
For
questions
information.
regarding the newest information.
Okay, so we
Right.
should not be making comments then.
No, the public can make comments. It's a public comment period, and so in any organization, a government organization, the public can talk about whatever they like for their allotted time. So if they want to make comments or ask questions, that's what is necessary according to the Brown Act. You can go look it up.
I need to look it up. I just heard the guidelines from the beginning that this is for information only. We were to ask questions. Public comment was going to be at the Planning Commission or at the Board of Supervisors. I just wanted to clarify what was going on, because a lot of people have been saying things about being disingenuous. And I wanted to hear the protocol. Protocol's not being adhered to. I think that's a bit disingenuous. So that's all I had to say. So I hope we can follow the rules, from now on.
I think it's your own interpretation, Mr. Peck.
554 parking spaces for ultimate build-out is still a huge amount. Have you compared that with the total number of parking spaces now existing in the entire Princeton area, for example? So people can get an idea of the scale of this versus the scale of the community that it's being entered into.
I haven't compared it directly. I could. Out of the 554, 107 of those are beach access parking. We have 420 associated with the development, but with the business, and then we have about 20 associated with staff. But again, the demand for parking is related to the demand for people that would be working there, and that would be peak level for office stuff. If it's server computers or whatever, that's lower. But one of the advantages of people working there is that is less people that are commuting in the solid side of traffic. I mean, that's just a fact of life. If you live in El Granada and you commute there, you're reducing the traffic side of Highway 1 and Highway 92, both directions, either north or south. So the smaller the number of people employed here, the greater the traffic is in the commute. And it's simple. It's a fairly straightforward analysis. But so I don't have a problem with traffic if we're on the reduction side of traffic. And that's kind of what all the traffic reports say. And they're formulaic. They're not opinion-based, So
Did
the
answer
more
your
people
question?
that work here, the fewer people that are on Highway 92. So that's the answer to that question.
I have another question. And this may be outdated knowledge on my part, but is Capistrano Street through Princeton, which is going to be impacted no matter which way the traffic's going to and from this project, is that street part of the county road system? Because it used to be owned by Keat-Nerhan, and it is not in the county road system. And
I think it is
in
in
this
the county- I
case,
know it
have
is in
you
the county road
had
system.
discussions with, if it's not in the county road system, if it's still a privately owned street, and this was news to me many years ago when I first learned about it, have you had any discussions with the owner of that street about impacts on their street?
Well, he owns the street that goes through his parking lot, but that is a county road, and it's on the county maps as a county road. So I'm not sure where that information came from on their end, but that you can check with the county engineer, but it is a county road. It's not owned by Nerhan, it's not owned by, everybody has overlapping property where the easement is owned by the, you know, if you look at property lines, they do go under that road, but it's a platted county road with an easement.
And who else would like to speak?
Aaron.
Hi, my name is Erin Kozlovka, and I live in Montera. And this is the first that I'm kind of getting to know the project, so excuse me because I'm coming into it, without knowing much. But I just wanted to find out, when you talked about the types of jobs that you're envisioning people doing at this facility, what types of jobs are you actually talking about? For example, I work as a writer, and there's no way that, I work for a company as a writer in Fremont, so I'm not going to be able to come do my job someplace else. I'm still going to drive to go do my job. So what types of jobs are you kind of envisioning that are going to, people are going to take the place here as opposed to working elsewhere?
Okay, well, some of the jobs that we're looking at, well, there are jobs for wellness center people, which is not what you're referring to probably, but there are there are larger job engineering departments that need a place to handle a couple of hundred people. And there's one on the coast side that's currently moving out. There are, like GoPro had about, they actually needed, in the entire streets we were making, they rented about 160 or 130,000 square feet in San Mateo because there wasn't anything available. That's a campus type of employment. And that's not available on the coast side. We're not looking at, 100 little real estate offices or things like that. We're looking at somebody that needs a campus type facility that would employ people on the coast side. That's, if you look at, and that's kind of what, but again, if that's not developed, we're not going to build anything. There are people that have wanted to put server farms here. We have a very cool climate. That's a non-traffic generator, but it also has no benefit in terms of reduction of traffic because there's nobody that works there. We've had 2 or 3 people talk about that, but again, if you look at, well, I can go into why people would want to put servers here, but it's
Okay, we won't.
so I won't. My problem is I can talk for about an hour on everything that comes up, and I do appreciate the comments.
Who else would like to ask any questions or comment? That's all? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment.
We've gone over.
Yeah, we're over time, Leonard. Okay, so I'm closing public comment. We're closing public comment right now, okay, because we're all actually out of time.
There's a new hand back there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is John Yoshimina, and I live in Half Moon Bay. And just to address one of the questions about what kind of jobs are going to be offered at Midway, on the average, this is an informal poll, but most of the special needs adults can probably work between 2 and 4 hour shift. So that being said, hopefully we would be able to get some of our special needs adults employed in businesses, Princeton, Half Moon Bay, but practically speaking, most employers have a hard time offering shifts shorter than 2 hours. But I myself am working as the farm manager, and some of the jobs that I anticipate offering them, because 2 of the acres are going to be farmed, and we're teaching them currently sustainable food production. So hopefully, that's going to be one of the sources of jobs, employment for these, for our community.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, with that, I am closing public comment. As I mentioned before, the council will not be taking any action. This was strictly informational. The permit is not complete. When that takes place, there will be time for public comment. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I think we'll take a brief break before we go to the Coastal Trail. Is there anything else we should be doing?